Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making curry rice with chicken katsu. Curry rice is a dish that's always been near and dear to my heart. It was actually the first dish I ever cooked for somebody else. Back in my boarding school days, I would often cook very large portions of stir fry to my taste and share that with my friends. But in the summer of 2016, I had the opportunity to cook specifically for somebody else. I was doing an internship at the University of Washington at their South Lake Union campus. Nearby, there was a Japanese restaurant that my good friend YGO Pro and I used to frequent, Hurry Curry of Tokyo. I don't exactly remember how I ended up making him curry rice back at our dorm, but I do remember going to the grocery store with him, picking out the onions and carrots, grabbing some curry blocks, and the most daunting part of all was probably buying the meat. I didn't have much experience cooking or even buying groceries back then, so I just picked out a pack of stewed meat and tried my best. Cooking the dish was actually pretty memorable because it was a struggle. I had very few tools. I was cutting vegetables with a plastic knife, cooking in a borrowed pan, and the whole time there was this really annoying girl laughing at me and telling me I couldn't cook. I definitely proved her wrong because YGO Pro loved it, and that annoying girl has been my girlfriend for a few years now, and she enjoys my cooking too. Japanese curry starts with your roux. Today I'm using Golden Curry's extra hot sauce mix. I like my food spicy and I was very congested when I recorded this, so I was hoping the heat would open up my sinuses and help me breathe. You can find curry blocks at the supermarket. I got this pack from H Mart, and if you live near one or 99 Ranch or even an independent Asian grocery store, you'll probably have a lot of options to choose from, so just pick one that looks appetizing. There's a great deal of variation between brands, and brands even have a variety of flavors, so just pick something you like. I have a few vegan viewers, and I just want to let y'all know that many of the curry blocks don't contain meat, but if you want to be absolutely sure that it's vegan, there are some that have vegan certificates, like that say that there's absolutely no animal products in the curry at all. So just look out for those. I'll put a picture of one up, and I'll probably just link a few in the description in case you can't find any in store. Sudachi Recipes has a very exhaustive article on making and customizing Japanese curry to your liking, so I'm going to link that in the description as well because it was very helpful in finding ways to enhance my curry beyond just using the roux cubes. The recipe on the back of the seasoning packs are a pretty good starting point. The recipe on the back of this pack calls for 2 pounds of onions, 2 pounds of meat, 9 ounces of carrots, and 10 ounces of potatoes. It's pretty simple. You just brown your meat and your veggies, cover them in 6 cups of water, and let that simmer for 15 minutes, and then add an entire square of the curry roux. I am only one person. I live alone, so I'm going to cut this recipe in half and use 3 cups of water and half a square of the roux. You could actually make the full recipe because curry keeps pretty well in the fridge. In fact, a lot of people believe that curry gets better after a night in the fridge because the flavors have time to come together and marry even deeper while they're sitting in your fridge. So you could do that too. Curry does also freeze pretty well. You just have to take out root vegetables like onions and potatoes because freezing those just ruins their texture. So if you're going to freeze your curry, just take out any vegetables you put in there. For today's curry, I'm going to start with caramelized onions. I only cooked one, but caramelized onions are so time intensive that I would actually recommend you cut up a few onions, especially because they keep pretty well in the fridge. I've already gotten started on these onions. I just cut the top and the bottom off. After you do that, just give them a good peel. Make sure you get rid of any dirt and wash that off. We're just going to slice these along the poles, so from the north to the south, kind of the long way. As always, just use a knife technique and a grip that's comfortable and safe for you. And so what I'm doing here, when I get halfway through, I'm just gonna like rotate it just to make it easier to go through. So we're here at our stove and we've got our onions on low heat. Hit the pan with 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and some salt. The salt's gonna draw out moisture and help our onions cook faster. We're just gonna let our onions soften a bit while we prep our other vegetables. So I think it's really important that you leave them on low heat just in case you get distracted, or else you run the risk of burning your onions. We're going to go ahead and prep our other vegetables, the first of which is carrots. Go ahead and wash your carrots. I prefer to trim them, but you don't have to. I save the trimmings in the freezer so we can use them for the stock that I mentioned in the last video. We're going to cut them into thin medallions, nothing special. You could dice them or cube them or do whatever you want. I just want them to be thin enough that they soften up well while we simmer them. Next, we're going to prep our potatoes. Today, I'm using russets because that's what I have in the house. You can use whatever potato you like. I'm just going to peel these and dice them to 1 centimeter cubes. I don't want these potatoes to brown, so I'm going to leave them submerged in cold water so we can work on our chicken and finish caramelizing our onions. My favorite dish at Hurry Curry of Tokyo was the chicken katsu curry. They use chicken breast for their katsu, but I'm going to use chicken thighs. I don't normally keep chicken breast in the house. It's not bad, but thighs have a lot more flavor and are more forgiving to cook, so I generally use those. I buy my thighs skin on, bone in. I think the money I save is well worth the time I spend deboning and deskinning, and by saving these bits for stock, I also get my full money's worth and extra use out of those parts. I'm going to go ahead and debone these and remove the skin. My best advice regarding deboning is to use a small, sharp knife and follow the bone as close as possible. That way you can preserve as much meat and maintain the general appearance of the cut. I additionally like to use a chef's knife to make a flat cut in the thickest part of the thigh. This is going to help our meat cook more evenly because meat cooks as heat radiates inward, and that radiation is limited by the boiling point of water. Thinning out the thickest part of the thigh to match the rest of it will help reduce the distance that heat has to radiate to fully cook the meat through, so the thigh will cook more evenly. Some people also achieve this effect by flattening the meat with a mallet or rolling pin in cling wrap. If you're interested in the science of cooking meat, Snazzy Labs has a really good video on cooking steak that explains this really well. I'll link it in the description. At this point, we're going to rub some salt into our chicken and set up a breading station with 3 bowls. One for an egg wash, one with seasoned flour, which is just flour, salt, and pepper, and one with panko. We're going to go into the egg, then the flour, back into the egg, and finally the panko. I like to be more conservative with how much flour and panko I pour out because you can't do much with it once it's touched the chicken. I think 2 eggs, 1.5 cups of flour, and 1.5 cups of panko are a good place to start. If you need more, just add it, and don't be afraid to make a mess. Just wipe off the entire table when you're done. Now that everything is ready, you're probably wondering whatever happened to our onions. While we prepped our vegetables and chicken, our onions got soft and translucent. I'm going to time-lapse the caramelization process, but I just basically add water, stir, and reduce the water down to almost nothing, and repeat this process over and over again. As the onions cook further and the sugars break down, you're going to get a nice fond, so that water is going to help pick some of that up and it's going to make sure it doesn't burn. Just be more attentive than I was. I cheated by using medium-high heat and some of those sugars burned, which made for a perfectly edible but ugly batch of caramelized onions. You can leave them on the pan unattended, just make sure that they're on low heat so you don't burn any of the sugars or the onions. Repeat the process of adding water and reducing until your onions look like this. You could go further, but this is good enough for me. At this point, I just toss in a pat of butter, turn the heat off, and work the butter into the onions. I then remove the onions from the pan and put them to the side to get started on the curry. Add some oil into the pan and brown your carrots on high heat. After a few minutes, add in your potatoes and give those a good browning as well. Don't forget to salt to your preference as you add things to the pan. Then add in 3 cups of water and reduce the heat to medium. I like to simmer the water for 20 minutes, 15 minutes covered and 5 minutes uncovered. So I set a timer and put the pan off on another burner to prepare my wok for frying. A lot of people are scared of frying at home, and while I don't think you should be scared, you definitely need to be cautious to remain safe. I fry in a wok, but you could fry in a cast iron skillet, a Dutch oven, a deep fryer, whatever you have at home. Besides the container you use to fry, I think the most important tool to fry at home safely is a candy thermometer or an oil thermometer. If you don't have one, don't buy the one I have. I'll link a better one. I prefer to get waterproof thermometers, especially frying thermometers, and this one is not waterproof and actually has some water damage under its grain. A frying thermometer is going to help you monitor your oil so you can cook things to the right temperature without much guesswork. It's also going to help you get the right texture because certain batters and breading need a certain level of heat to get the right crunch. The last thing you need is a high smoke point oil. I use canola, but you can use vegetable or peanut oil too. Some people also like avocado and sunflower oils. Anything with a smoke point above 400 degrees Fahrenheit should work. Do not use toasted sesame oil. Do not use olive oil. Fill your frying vesicle to about 1/3 to 1/2 of the way up. You don't want to go high because you run the risk of spilling oil as you add things. Keep a fire extinguisher nearby because why wouldn't you? And if your oil is too hot, add more oil to cool it down. We're going to fry at 330 degrees Fahrenheit and we're going to fry one thigh at a time. The oil temperature is going to drop as soon as you add things in, so you don't want to drop too many things in at once. Lay things away from you when you're frying, so any oil that does splash will splash away from you. I'm going to be honest, I do not time things when I fry. I just fry until things are golden brown. That's not to say that I just fry off vibes though. I keep a second thermometer to check the temperature of the meat. This chicken thigh is going to fry a little faster because we deboned it and we flattened it with our knife to even out the cook time. Once your chicken looks like this, take it out, set it on a wire rack, stick your thermometer in the thickest, chunkiest part. You have a lot of options regarding the internal temperature chicken needs to be cooked to be safe. Most of those are dependent on time, but I'm not timing things, and you're watching this video, so I'm gonna guess you probably don't know what you're doing. So just look for 165 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, all the bacteria is killed off. If you're a couple degrees shy, you can just rest your chicken as the residual heat is going to continue to radiate and get you to that 165 internal. This is called carryover cooking and it's super helpful. If you're nervous about that, just put the chicken back in the oil. The first thigh was at about 180 when I pulled it out, which is definitely over 165. If this was a chicken breast, that would be a disaster and the chicken would be dry and almost inedible. But this is a juicy, delicious chicken thigh, which is a lot more forgiving. Before you fry the second chicken thigh, wait for the oil to get back up to temp, 330 degrees Fahrenheit. Fry it the same way, laying the chicken away from you and flipping occasionally. You get the point. We're gonna flash forward to our pot of vegetables simmering in water. Add in your curry blocks and salt to taste. The curry is going to thicken up as the block dissolves, so if it gets too thick to your liking, add in some more water to thin it out. At this point, we're also going to add in our finishing touches, our secret ingredients. This is what's going to take our curry to the next level. I'll tell you mine, but some common ones are chocolate, instant coffee, wine, soy sauce, ketchup, apples, and there's so many more. The sudachi recipes link in the description is going to be really helpful because it breaks down so many options available to you when making curry and even categorizes a lot of those secret ingredients so you can experiment. You also don't have to use water when you simmer your vegetables. You can simmer them in stock, broth, juice. There's so many options. I used a Maggi chicken bouillon cube with the water to simmer the vegetables in an instant chicken stock. I also like my food spicy and I needed something to clear my sinuses, so I put in 4 cranks of ground ghost pepper that I got at Trader Joe's. I also added a couple squeezes of honey and a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce to round it out. As you add things, remember to taste for salt. And with that, our curry is done and we can plate up. I have some rice in my rice cooker. I use short grain rice, but use whatever you have. Slice up the chicken against the grain, pour on your curry, and top with our onions. As always, thanks for watching. Cooking is kind of hard when you're sick, but cooking and filming while sick is horrendous. Thanks for sticking till the end. If you like this video, Feel free to like and subscribe as it really helps me out. How do you level up your curry? Go ahead and comment your favorite secret ingredients. I'm itching to try something new. I've only ever used golden curry, so I'm thinking about trying new brands and maybe even doing some mix and match to find my favorite combinations. Tune in next time. I might show my face. I'm not really hiding it or anything. It's on Instagram if you really want to know what I look like. I just haven't cut my hair in a minute and I don't want to look raggedy on the internet. Anyway, bye.